Yeah. Good evening, everybody. We'd like to bring this meeting to order.
Adequate notice of this meeting was provided and published in the Asbury Park Press and the Ocean Star on January 7, 2022. Copies of the agenda were provided to the newspaper, posted on public bulletin boards in the Township website.
Roll call.
Councilman Albanese. Councilwoman Zepsic.
Here.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Here.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Here.
Councilman Halloran.
Here.
Vice President Crate.
Here.
President Minikino.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, somebody told me, I'm not sure, that's supposed to be Cub Scouts here from Pack 38. Is anybody here from that? Are you sure? So we'd like you guys to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys can do that? All right, let's come on up front here. Come on. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I was laughing at you. I wrote something funny. At least I think it's funny. Up there, guys.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Scouts dismissed. Pretty so quiet. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And you have a girl.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Wait, did he want me to say, did we talk about this? Did he say?
I
he
also
wanted me to
heard
say-
that the Cub Scouts were supposed to get ice cream or something after this, but I'm not sure if that's true. I could be wrong. I could be wrong,
Now you're
yeah.
going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Did I tell them?
That's what happens when they give me the microphone.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the gavel. All right. Madam Clerk,
Yes,
can you file the reports from the municipal officers, please?
yes, of course.
Thank you. Can we get an approval on the February 22nd, 2022 meetings?
Motion.
Motion, sorry.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zepsic.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Abstain.
Councilman Halloran.
Abstain.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Minikino.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so now we have a couple presentations. The first one is the 50th anniversary of the Older Americans Act. Can I get, I lost his name, Jim Sigerson, sorry. All right, thank you. That's me and the mayor. Hey, Mayor.
All right, thank you, everybody. So Meals on Wheels does awesome work every single day here in Ocean County by feeding those who most need it. Not only do they have the feeding, but they have the seniors. A lot of them do not have family or friends in the area, and that's partially why they might need the meals. So they get that human interaction, which may not happen. Here in Brick, our senior center does a great job with Zulma Soto about making contact by way of phone, which is awesome because the seniors really appreciate that when they have nobody else. But also just the Meals on Wheels workers who are there, Monday through Friday delivering meals and having that human connection, which is really awesome. And I do have a proclamation because it is a special event, the 50th anniversary. So on March 22nd, 1972, President Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 to include a national nutrition program for individuals 60 years and older. For 5 decades, this landmark law has helped to fund community-based organizations like Meals on Wheels, the only federal program designed specifically to meet the nutritional and social needs of older adults. This year, Meals on Wheels programs across the country are joining together for the March for Meals awareness campaign to celebrate its 50 years of success and garner support to ensure these critical programs can continue to address food insecurity and malnutrition, enable independence, and improve health for years to come. In Ocean County, the Meals on Wheels programs, both congregate and home delivered, have served our communities admirably for 50 years, providing nutritious meals to seniors, helping maintain their health and independence. The Meals on Wheels drivers in Ocean County are the backbone of the program, who deliver these meals to seniors and individuals with disabilities. The Meals on Wheels program in Ocean County deserve recognition for the heroic contributions and essential services they have provided amid the COVID-19 pandemic and will continue to provide to local communities, our state, and our nation long after it's over. As the senior population is increasing, action is needed to support local Meals on Wheels programs through federal, state, and local funding, donations, as well as raising awareness to ensure these vital services can continue to be delivered for another 50 years. For all of these reasons, I, John G. Ducey, the Mayor of the Township of Brick in the County of Ocean and the State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim March 2022 to be March for Meals Month in the Township of Brick, and urge all citizens to honor our Meals on Wheels programs, the seniors they serve, and the staff and volunteers who run these programs. And I just want to say, right here in Ocean County, we have the best one, definitely in the state and probably in the whole country. Jim Sigerson does such a great job organizing it and running it and making it as successful as it is. Kept it going through COVID-19. And is now, we're all getting back to the congregate services as well, which again, that's important, have seniors sitting next to seniors having their meals. So we're looking forward to that. And if you're able, like I said at the bottom here about donations, unfortunately, our Ocean County Meals on Wheels just had their budget was cut about $270,000 by the county. So any donations would obviously help the situation. Because again, it's something that's necessary, needed, wanted, enjoyed, depending on where you're coming from. But it's an awesome program, and hear from Vince next, I guess, and then we'll go to Jim. So our council president.
Thank you. I can't possibly top that. He kind of covered all the bases and stole all the thunder. Got my good side? All right. So this is, and again, I can't read this. It's just kind of what the mayor said. This is a resolution from the Council of Brick for all of your services. Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank the mayor, the president of the council, and the council members. I was a frequent attendee here for many, many years, going all the way back to my good friend Joe Scarpelli. Brick Township has been probably the most generous township to our program in its history. We became Ocean County's nutrition provider on February 1st of 1974. So for 48 years, we've been providing Meals on Wheels, and we've been doing that in partnership with the mayor, with the town council, but also with the Brick seniors. And he gave a shout out to Zuma Soda, and I want to give out a shout to Zuma too. She's fantastic, and the programs that she organizes there and the way that she cares for our seniors who come in for that hot, nutritious meal and the attention that they get really makes a meaningful difference in their lives. And Zuma has a marvelous staff of outreach workers who really care about the needs of the seniors, and they're the ones that go out into the homes to do the assessments, and then they forward those assessments to us so that we can process them. So this is a collaboration, it is a partnership, but this is a partnership that runs for decades. And Brick Township has continued to build on that partnership with their support for our program, publicly and privately, throughout our 48-year history. What I want to say is that this legislation is landmark legislation. It brought this program from a federal level to a local level, and it's been embraced by the mayor and by the township committee in Brick Township like no other township in Ocean County. So the residents of Brick Township should be very proud that their mayor and that their town council support the work of our program, but the work of all programs that enrich and better the lives of the senior residents in Brick Township. And honestly, we could not have done it without them. We would not have been as successful. So I say thank you very much, and it is my honor to receive these proclamations on behalf of Meals on Wheels of Ocean County.
Thank you. We have another presentation. This is for National Library Week. Can we get a Taya Patino, please? Did I say that right? You did. Thank you. Yeah.
First try.
I practiced it.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of the council to recognize National Library Week, that what we have coming up, and I say this every year that we do this. I also am a librarian, so I appreciate the work of the public librarians here in Brick. I want to talk very briefly about the great things that our libraries have to offer. First of all, free books, which who can't beat that? My dad used to always say, if it's for free, it's for me. So libraries are really the best for that. And that includes audiobooks as well. I'm a big fan of the audiobooks. I always have them downloaded on my phone. It's a great place to study for students and also for teachers to grade papers. I have a couple of friends who live here in Brick who go there specifically to grade papers on the weekends because it's nice and quiet for them. There's free internet and computer use. They have DVDs and CDs, lecture series, classes that people can take. There are reading programs and arts and crafts programs for children. There's music and also opportunities for young adults to work there as well, which I've had students in the past at the middle school level. That's kind of where they got their start in their love of libraries and being able to really kind of dip their toes into the work environment that goes along with running a library. There's really something for everyone, and we appreciate our librarians. So I just want to say on behalf of the Town Council that we would like to recognize April 3rd through April 9th as National Library Week and thank all of our librarians for the hard work that they do for our community. So thank you.
All right, I have the official proclamation. Today's libraries are not just about books and play an important role in the quality of life of a community, providing citizens with a wealth of resources and information that can be used to enhance and enrich their lives. Libraries not only connect people to books, but to technology by providing access to the internet, computers, and training critical for accessing educational and employment opportunities. With that in mind, the American Library Association's theme for this year's National Library Week is Connect with Your Library. Our community is fortunate to be home to the Brick branch of the Ocean County Library and has a hardworking staff who help provide opportunities for visitors to connect with new ideas through access to multimedia content, programs, and classes in addition to their array of books. Libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and continually are expanded to adapt to our changing world to meet the needs of their patrons. Libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status, and promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all. For all of these reasons, I, John G. Ducey, the mayor of the Township of Brick in the County of Ocean and the state of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim this week, the week of April 3rd to April 9th, 2022, to be National Library Week, and encourage all residents to please connect with our library and get out there and visit our librarians.
Hi, everyone. I think you really covered everything that I was going to say. No, that's okay. You did a great job advocating for the library, so I appreciate it. My name's Taya Patino. I'm the branch manager at the Brick branch right next door. And I just encourage you all, if you're not library users, to please become library users. Your card is free. It doesn't cost anything, and it's amazing the things you can do with your library card. We're now fine-free. So if you haven't been coming into the branch because you may owe a few fines on your books, please come back. It's free. Everything's free. Everything is free with the library. And we do have computer usage. We have books. We have AV materials. We have computer classes you can take. We have concerts. We have crafting, not just for kids, but for adults also. And for teens, we have a sale program in the summer where the teens can come volunteer. During the year, we have a tab program where the teens can volunteer. There's so much that we have to offer. I don't want to take up everyone's time, but you can come see me at any time or any of the staff that we have, and we will be more than happy to delight you and dazzle you with everything we have going on at the library. No more magic tree now?
All right, thank you for that. We have a couple budget presentations. First up would be Alyssa Cummings for engineer.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Is the light on?
Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, how many engineers does it take to work a microphone? Thank you for your time this evening and allowing me to provide a brief introduction to the engineering division and address the items requested in our 2022 budget. Okay. Better? Okay. So the primary functions of the Division of Engineering are to establish and maintain the public infrastructure and assist with its integration into private property. We monitor the site construction and off-site improvements, pretty much everything you see outside the physical envelope of a building. Our engineering currently employs 6 full-time employees. Our full-time staff includes 1 licensed professional engineer, 2 National Institute for Certification in Engineering Technologies certified inspectors, an engineering aide, road inspector, an engineering permit and inspection clerk, and a secretary. We also budget for 1 seasonal employee, which is usually a local high school or college student. As a group, we provide professional assistance to the township departments, as well as technical support for homeowners, business owners, realtors, and developers. We serve as the contact for various divisions of the NJDEP, the DOT, and the Army Corps of Engineers. We also serve as the NFIP. We're an NFIP community in Brick, which means we're a part of the National Flood Insurance Program, which allows residents to purchase their flood insurance directly from the National Flood Insurance Program. The engineer is the designated floodplain administrator, so we're responsible to make sure that all of our construction within a flood zone complies with the rules and regulations of the requirements of the program. Based on how well we comply with the NFIP regulations and guidelines, and how well we work with planning to meet other requirements with respect to preservation of area in the floodplain, we're graded under the community rating system. We currently enjoy a Class 6 status, which gives our residents a 20% discount to those insured through the program. However, in April, we're projected to advance to a Class 5, which will increase residents who have an NFIP flood insurance policy to a 25% discount. Most of the day-to-day operations of the Division of Engineering involve interaction with the public, including homeowners and business owners and their representatives, contractors, licensed professionals looking for guidance, and just with general development. Our greatest efforts and goals moving into 2022 include maintaining our status within the community rating system. Now that we're a 5, we want to maintain that and advance a little further into the program. Assisting residents and realtors with development of private property. Coordination with code enforcement to facilitate better enforcement of engineering ordinances and violations. Coordination with Public Works for repairs and improvements to our existing infrastructure and maximizing the capital funds available to the greatest extent practical. Reviewing applications for private development and construction. Developing a flood hazard area permit and software to help us organize it. Developing a township-wide dredge material management master plan. Developing a township-wide flood mitigation strategy, and the day-to-day education of the public on flood risk and preparedness. Our engineering salary and wage budget request for 2022 is $210,000. While our salaries are fixed, the actual costs to the township are estimated. The funds recouped in the budget from inspections, escrow accounts, and capital accounts will vary from year to year. Therefore, the actual staffing cost to the township fluctuates annually. We strive to keep our costs as low as possible. Our overtime budget request for 2022 is $30,000, which is consistent with last year. We do provide inspections as requested by contractors or the administration outside of normal operating hours. We provide overtime hours worked can be charged to escrow projects that can be billed for the associated costs. So these chargebacks to the operating budget are reflected in salary and wage and not necessarily shown as an offset to overtime in the line item. Our operating budget request is $159,280. It is almost a 16% increase from 2021. Engineers' largest line item is for expert services. That is money that the department reserves to pay engineers, architects, or other professionals for services that cannot be capitalized, such as stormwater permitting compliance, flood mapping appeals, ADA compliance consultation, master plan updates, sound studies, and general traffic consultations. If these services are not required, the monies are not spent, and this year's request is $125,000, which is consistent with what was requested last year. Our two increases in line item budgets include, that's for general hardware and tools. We would like to order 2 gas meters for use in confined space entries such as crawl space, pipes, drainage structures prior to entry. This is the need to test oxygen levels for safety. It's an OSHA requirement. We currently have 1 meter that is still functional, but it's quite old. We were planning to order 2 meters, one for us and one for use for the drainage group. And the other increase is for our permit fines and licenses. This is due to a newer township policy where all of our DEP permitting applications and renewals are going to be funneled through the engineering department just to make sure that we're actually paying, they're just going to be reviewed by engineering as opposed to just processed and paid. So while this is money that it's new to the engineering budget, it's not a new cost to the township. This is just a reallocation from prior departments to engineering. That summarizes my budget presentation, and I thank the mayor, the council, our business administrator, and the citizens for their patient support and active participation in all of our projects and initiatives.
Thank you. Get some lights? No, that's all right. Open to council for questions or comments on this budget presentation. Seeing none. Now I see the public. Open to public for comments on this budget presentation only. Yes, Mr. Sluka.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. One of those slides got me a little confused, which talked about the request for 2021 budget, not 2022.
I'm sorry, did I misspeak?
What?
I'm sorry if I said 2021.
No, you didn't. I thought the slide said that. Okay. The other thing is, presuming it was 2022, is you talk about consistent with 2021. Is it 2021 budget or 2021 actual? It says consistent with, but it doesn't tell me if it's...
It's consistent with the requested in the budget from last year.
What did we actually spend last year then?
For which line item?
For the one that says overtime budget?
$7,745.
Well, if we only spent $8,000 last year, why do we think we're going to spend $20,000 this year? That's sort of my question, really.
So we budget amounts based on what we expect we might have to do, which in engineering you really never know. Depends on storms, it depends on call-outs, it depends on a lot of things. So we budget what we feel we need and we can use it.
Yeah, but it's 150% of what
well,
actually
it's better
happened.
than not having it if you need it.
Yeah, I know. We
That's
always
a
hear
bigger
that
problem.
story. I hate budgets that are budgeted on budgets that we never hit. I mean,
Well, last week you
I
credited
worked in
us
an
for
area
being
and we
really
did the same
tight,
thing.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we're
Okay, I just wanted, I thought that was, the slide was incorrect, but it was more my concern of whether it was based on what we actually spend every year or what we budget. We could budget anything every year. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Cole.
Diane Carl, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. And with the chair's permission, I will address my questions directly to Ms. Cummins, whom I know, and she knows well the problem I continue to have. About 13 years later, I ran into Ken Schaefer, in fact, when things started to open up after the COVID nonsense. You mentioned the drainage, that checking drainage water or something. And you know my problem, which continues, because I couldn't get the correct information. Then finally, I found a man in my community that had pristine documents from day one, original owner. And little by little, I had gotten information and found out that it isn't at Brick Township that the planning board documents were. Everybody told me something about a fire in the vault. It's the county. So I found those. And then I asked, what is this business about covenants? And I got a copy of the Second Amendment to the Articles of Incorporation, which I did eventually read. I belong to the Community Association Institute and read their documentation and found out that is another name for covenants. Now, the covenants,
Ms. Cole,
yes, I will get to it.
okay, I'm just.
Your job is to see that everybody here gets to ask their questions and gets them answered,
I'm just
not
wait-
to
I'm waiting for
stop
the question.
people.
I'm just waiting for the question.
Yes,
Okay. That's all.
fine. So now, I'm an old lady. It'll take me a minute to put the train back on the track in my
You're
brain.
speaking about the covenants to the council.
Yes. So when I finally got them, I found that the drainage and grading on all the properties in Greenbrier too, whether they are common or our property, individual owners, is to be maintained by the association. You know that you sent Ken Schaefer out. He sent a letter back to Scott McFadden, and you were working for Birdsall at the time. And then Scott McFadden sent a letter to the trustees at the time Richard Gross was the president. He is no longer around. And you can say that. However, I'm sorry. I never knew evil till I moved here. And you had no right to interrupt my train of thought again. The letter that he claimed he got, and I know it said, Scott McFadden sent him, did not say anything like what you reported to him and what I got on the side from somebody in my trustee folder. So now, what Ken pointed out to me, brought me to the side street and said, the grading has been totally compromised. There is no grading. And I made issues there, here, and to this day, nobody has done it. Many times I called the township, I think Lynette was there, and said, send somebody over with hip boots to come see the big puddles on the common elements behind me and tell me how I keep it from coming down the wall of my basement. So now I had to pay $25,000 this year to have the wall of the basement all the way down waterproofed. So what drainage are you mentioning? Because Ken pointed out, I call them sewers. I'm from Brooklyn. We had played stickball in the street, and the sewers were the bases. In some cases, cars were others. When you talk about the water, you mentioned drainage, and that's what I really want to know about. What you're going to have to look at your notes, because there's no way I'll recall the words, just drainage.
So the township is responsible for drainage within the public right-of-way, on public property. And in
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And in cases where we have an actual drainage easement established, we're also sometimes just required to maintain drainage on private property. While we're not responsible to
This is association property because it's common elements.
Well, we're
But
not- well, we're
the
not-
water doesn't know enough to stop at the boundary of my deed specifications.
While we're not required to maintain drainage on private property, I don't think any of us in public works or engineering are above helping somebody out and at least looking in and poking around. It's just
No,
not.
nobody comes out. I called several times. Nobody ever did anything then. And then finally, because my basement wall is deteriorating on the inside, before I start paying money for that, which will cost me a lot, and then think about suing the township because for close to 20 years I've been battling to have them come out and address this problem. Until that grading is addressed, it's not going to happen. So the drains that you're talking about, the water quality, that's really what you mentioned.
Water quality is one part of stormwater management, but drainage is just collection of water and routing it away from the grade.
So the things I call sewers, which Ken pointed out and said, we could work with this and we can have it directed there, and good old Richard never called them in to do anything. If that would be one of the drainages that you're talking about, that
From the best of my recollection, the drainage in Greenbrier 2 isn't covered under a drainage easement conveying the ownership or the responsibility to the Township of Brick.
So let me, Miss
yes, it is.
Cummings.
Yes, it is.
I want to ask Ms. Cummings a question on your behalf. Is there a recommendation for her to take care of grading before I'm asking Ms. Cummings a question. Is there a recommendation that you can transfer to her and say, hey, try this before you get into an expense on her property? Is there something she can do for grading?
I'll tell you what, you come out to 18 Greenbrier Boulevard and walk to the back to where the common property is, which is where you will walk in the big puddles. So be sure to bring tall boots on your feet when you come. That is not my property.
Okay.
My property, my deed says a specific piece of land. But the water that fills there, and I call them the swimming pools of Greenbrier too, is on common property. It's the association's part, but nobody has ever taken action and done anything with the association because Richard Gross used to be on an alternate with the planning board. I remember when he said, I got to give Scarpelli this note, scribbled note that he wanted to be on the planning board.
Thank you. Mr. Forrester.
Why are you looking so glum when you looked at me and you said my name? Don't worry, I'm in a good mood tonight. Sam Foster, 108 Chico Drive. Quick question. I heard Ms. Call mention Ken Schaefer. I have a couple of questions for clarification here. Is Ken Schaefer, does he work for, does he have anything to do with issuing summonses for code violations?
You have
Ken Schaefer's no longer employed by the Township of Brick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. Who is the current is it one person that is in charge of code violations or?
No, we have a code enforcement department.
Okay, so code enforcement has nothing to do with engineering or zoning.
No, and Dan Newman is going to speak to the code enforcement department. That's under his umbrella when his presentation
Dan
comes
Newman?
up. Dan Newman in the
Who's-
blue shirt and red tie.
Oh, okay. You look so different. I remember. Man, being in government's really aged you. I thought I looked aged. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that as an insult.
Oh, well, that was very
your
insulting.
son was Dan Newman.
Is there a question?
You're junior or senior? Okay.
Is
I'm
there a
sorry.
question for Ms. Cummings?
I'm sorry. Yes. I had a question. Well, that's what I wanted to ask about Ken Schaefer and who's in charge of code violations. And one other thing, clarification also, years ago we had a problem with an engineering firm and a township business administrator. I don't know what the legal status of them was. I know that they're charged with some kind.
So is there a question for
Yeah,
the
but-
budget
yes, I am.
presentation?
Yes,
This
yes.
is what we're here for.
I know,
If you
I
have
understand.
public comments, you can make those at
Yes.
the end. But right
Well,
now,
that-
Ms.
yes,
Cummings is here.
I am. My question is, first of all, for clarification, is the engineering department that we had before, Birdsville Engineering, was that, this is leading up to a question now. Basically, what I want to know is, how many employees are working for the Township of Brick right now in engineering department that were associated with the engineering departments or that were involved, that were charged with criminal activity? That's what I want to know. Now, does
I
anybody?
don't think we're going to talk about employee backgrounds and their resumes or their professional experience.
Well, I think that the public has the right to know if we have someone employed that was working with them, considering that the budget is, what was the amount? Was it $30,000 that you're over budget, or?
No,
Sorry?
Mr.
No?
Council
What
President,
was-
if I may say, the personnel matters are not discussed in public.
This isn't a personal matter.
You just
No.
requested
I'm just
information
asking,
about
what I'm trying to
personnel.
find out, I'll just make this very simple here, okay? What I'm trying to find out is, we have had a lot of problems with budget issues over the years. When we have a department that has an increase in their budget like this department has, and I saw the presentation on how much it was, what I'm trying to find out is, and the public has the right to know is there any, there's not a personal attack, but what I'm asking is there any link to employees now that work for the Township of Brick? And if some people get mad, that's, hey, you're right, you have the right to get mad, I don't care. But is there any link between the former corruption charges that we had with employees in town, or any of them working in the township now? That's what I want to know. And the public has the right to know as well. Now, I see all these glum looks up there, but the public has a right to know what is going on in town, and when there is an increase in the budget, and I hear all the time from this administration, especially at election time, about how much you're saving us money. What I'm trying to find out, and I'm not slandering anybody because I'm talking to public officials, is there anybody in township, in any department here, that has any links whatsoever to the, and I'm not naming any names, the prior corruption that was so rampant in Brick years ago? That's it. There's no need for people to get smart or snicker or look so glum, and that's it.
Mr.
We
Council
have a
President,
budget.
I can respond.
Thank you.
There's no snickering or glumness.
Oh, there is up there,
You're
but maybe not with you.
asking about personnel. We do not discuss personnel at a public meeting. You may say you're not asking about personnel,
Well-
but you are, so the question is not going to be, that you asked is not going to be answered.
I'm not asking a question about personnel, I'm asking about the conduct of the people. And I'd like to point out, when Republicans were in charge of the township, we had Democrat after Democrat stand up here and make personal attacks about Mayor Acropolis and hiring of John Blue. John Blue was raked over the coals, Councilman San Giovanni's daughter, who was a public defender in town. Now, because Democrats in charge, we have a Democratic political fundraiser over there as township attorney who's trying to establish a double standard, and that is wrong.
Is there a
And I have-
question about the budget?
Well, I've got 6 more minutes, so I can just stand there and look at it if you want me to.
6 more
but
minutes?
That's it. That's it. 2, 1, that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else from public, please? Yes.
Hi, Vic Finelli. I brought this up a couple of months ago, just a comment. I'll bring it up again. I took my slide down that said thank you, all right? Well, yeah. Just again, you talked about the FEMA discount.
Yes.
That shows up right on your bill.
Yes.
So anybody can see that and say, hey, the township saves us money, real money. So thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank Tara, too. She does most of the real work.
Thank you, too. You're not up there yet, but thank you again. That's the one I wanted. Just a reminder for people that might be watching at home about flood insurance, right? My homeowner's insurance has gone up about 600% in 22 years. It has nothing to do with you people. And I've had no claims, not even with Sandy. My flood insurance hasn't even doubled in 22 years. And I don't think people know what flood insurance is or what their homeowners covers or doesn't, but they need to. All right, the flood insurance basically covers any rising water at all. It's not expensive unless you live in a wave zone, and a wave zone means you're right on the bay and you can get there, so people really need to know that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from public? Yes, sir.
Jim Fosman. I just want to, you said you have 6 employees.
Yes.
And they're full-time employees?
Yes, sir.
And they're engineers hired from different engineering firms?
No, I'm the only licensed professional engineer. I have one licensed engineer, I have 2 certified NICET inspectors, I have an engineering clerk, I have a road inspector, and a secretary.
And when you first started here, how many did you have then? You had
Right.
you and one other person, I believe, back in 2015.
No, on the payroll, there was only 1 licensed engineer.
No-
We have a
No,
consultant.
employees in your department. Back in 2015, there was only 2.
I can't remember any licensed engineer other than myself on the payroll.
I'm not talking about licensed engineer, I'll talk about employees working in your department.
Oh, in 2015, I think we still had 6. In 2012, we had 2. And then we formed a actual engineering
That's what-
division in
okay.
13,
My
and
date-
then we
My
had,
date could be off, but,
And
and
then
when
after
Sandy
Sandy-
hit, I understand more was needed because of the flood elevations and everything. What's your budget for the work in the town for this year, on the capital budget?
I don't know that yet.
you haven't
Capital
just- you haven't
capital
checked
hasn't been
out? No?
established for this year yet.
Okay. Just want to bring up a point too. When the roads in my area, Hollywood Manor, when they were done, nobody did a new accounting of how the roads were, the condition they were in. So what happened was, I know Birdsall had some engineering plans and you used them instead of redoing them.
I believe that project was done by Alimo, not Birdsall.
We had the paperwork here. That was the thing, because Birdsall paperwork on those roads were already done, and the expense didn't want to be paid out to redo them again. And what happened after that was, the roads are in horrible condition. They were just paved, 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
They were paved in the 2010 road improvement program.
Yeah, but they didn't get paved then. They didn't get paved then. They got paved, I believe, in 2015, so it's about 7 years the roads have been paved.
But typically, it's a year after the,
The condition of the roads are horrible. They weren't, whoever did the specs on those roads, underneath those roads weren't accounted for. So right now, all the roads cracked. Every 100 feet, there's a crack in a road. We had DPW come out there and put tar in those cracks, just so the water won't get down there and lift it when it freezes. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Creates a pothole. We got potholes now. I had DP come out and fix them once, and we're having them again, and more cracks in the roads.
That wasn't necessary, Mr. Foster. Thank you. I saw that. It wasn't necessary. Yeah, that's different, okay? Hey, listen, that's disrespectful.
But forget him.
Mr. Foster decided on his way out to give us the finger. It's disrespectful, okay? And we're not going to have that here. No, I'm not disrespectful to anybody, and I want to be treated. Listen, you're being disrespectful now, okay? Listen, it doesn't matter to me. I can end the meeting, go home and watch TV. If you're going to keep being disrespectful, it's fine. This gentleman's up here asking questions. He's got his opinion. He's got his 5 minutes, okay? Listen,
4 now.
listen. That's enough, okay? Sorry about that. Continue.
And the roads have potholes in it, all the cracks, and they need to be resealed again this year, so we can do the cracks. And this time, have them blow it out, the dirt out of it, so the tar can go down into the cracks. And, all right, my train of thought here.
Sorry.
And also, sorry about that. And we had issues with, I had to call DPW out there because the storm drains keep getting clogged. They came out a week later and redid it because they were just covered with mud over the top. No water can go down them. But what happened was with the roads is the town sued the person who paved the roads. The town received $460,000 from the insurance company because the roads weren't done right.
I'm not, I remember.
I remember that 100%.
I
lived
remember
there.
being in mediation with Alimo, the engineer who designed it, and Earl, but I am not privy to the
It
settlement.
was $460,000. I don't know how much it was to pay that, but what the problem is, and I heard some other lady come up one time and complain about her roads that were just paved, and they're cracking. So be a little more careful with whoever's doing the engineering design, should be do the underlayment. If you need stones put down, they put down stones so the roads don't crack, because you might as well kept the old road there, but paving was a waste of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fosman. Anybody else from public, please? Seeing none, close public. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have another presentation for budget. It's Tara Paxton for land use and Chris Amano for zoning.
One more, Tara. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Ducey, Council President Minicino, and the entire governing body, as well as our business administrator, Joanne Bergen, for giving Christopher Romano, our zoning officer, and myself this opportunity to present the budget for the Division of Land Use. On behalf of our employees, we thank you for the support and continued assistance that you give us throughout the year. The Division of Land Use consists of the Planning Board, Zoning Board, Zoning Office, GIS mapping, grant management, and general land use planning. As we continue to adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic throughout 2021, I'm happy to report that we were able to continue our mission to serve the public, which is central to our goal in our department. We were very happy to move back to public meetings for the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Adjustment in May, and we have had the busiest year that both boards have had in a very, very long time. We tripled our cases in 2021, which was an amazing feat for our staff to handle. We had a number of very controversial cases for which our staff handled many inquiries from the public and provided professional, timely responses to the public for those cases. Our staff continues to provide board members, applicants, and their professionals, and most importantly, the public, with unfettered access for viewing our case files virtually. We began posting the files on the division board web pages. So now, anytime there's a public hearing, the public can go on the township's website on the board link, and they can see everything that the board members get in their packets and every file that's housed in our offices. So they don't have to come here to look at the files. We've been deployed using Microsoft OneDrive as well, with the assistance of the IT division, to share large files such as site plans and subdivisions, and documents with the public and applicants, and have continued to hold education and training to maintain all of our certifications as land use administrators, our zoning officers, and our board secretary certifications. All 7 of our employees are certified. The most notable accomplishments, which was just mentioned earlier from Alyssa, who her department handles accomplishing a great task with a lot of responsibility in the prerequisite to getting us into the CRS program every year. Her staff handles the development and review and ensuring that each new building that's built in the flood zones elevation certificate is correct. And without that accuracy, we wouldn't even be in the CRS program. For the rest of us to do the fluffy stuff and the planning stuff to get us the points. So that was our greatest achievement this year, I think, is getting into the CRS Class 5, which there's only 3 other municipalities in Ocean County that have that Class 5 achievement. We were also very proud to get through a HUD, Housing and Urban Development audit this year. We are recipients of the Community Development Block Grant, and we had a week-long audit, which we came through with flying colors. So just to follow up on the CRS, the work that we do with the CRS program it is a year-long task that has many moving parts. We have to coordinate hundreds of files, mapping, reports, and documents. We compiled a full update, and the council might remember, of the floodplain management plan, which you had to adopt for conformance with the CRS process. We also did the repetitive loss area analysis, something that we didn't receive points for last time, that we garnered another 155 points for. Flood warning and response plan, We worked with the OEM office and got another 165 points for that. Public outreach, online surveys, mailings. We joke that we're the mail department because we send out thousands of mailings every year, not only for the CRS program, but also for the Community Development Block Grant program as well. We work with multiple departments, including the Engineering Division, Public Works, OEM, and Administration to get this CRS certification over the line. Over 58 elevation certificates were reviewed and submitted for accuracy. And the result was an improvement of our class rating from a 6 to a 5, resulting in an increase in the discount for all of our residents who have compliant structures in the flood zone and have flood insurance. We have 7 full-time employees with 11 planning board members, 9 zoning board members. We serve as staff to the planning board, zoning board of adjustment, land use committee, master plan committee, environmental commission, architecture review committee, floodplain management planning committee, ADA coordinator, and we assist the shade tree commission and the Homes Now board, which is our affordable housing administrator. Going to the budget part of the presentation, in 2021, the Division of Land Use and Planning brought in a total of $1,087,344 in revenue. This is shown on the pie graph behind me. So in our department, we bring in zoning permits, which Christopher will talk about in a minute, fees of $110,000. But when applicants make applications to the boards, they pay an application fee and they also pay an escrow fee, which our professionals bill into. And then we also bring in every permit for single-family residence or commercial developments gets assessed an affordable housing fee, which brings in money that the New Jersey legislature has given us the power to bring in. And that is to be used to ensure affordable housing is built and monitored in the township. So we brought in a lot of revenue in 2021. We use this revenue to offset costs of staff time utilized in processing applications, reviewing applications, attending board meetings, doing site inspections. And with those fees, we were able to offset our costs to the municipality. So I'll explain that in a little bit. So the land use budget for salary and wages increased by $15,000 from the 2021 amount to the 2022 budget request of $475,000 for the land use staff and $63,500 for the boards. The requested overtime budget decreased. Most of our overtime is billed to the escrow accounts for attendance at meetings. And it's notable to mention that some of the division staff salary expenses are offset by utilization of grant funds as well. We also wear that hat where we manage the grant funds from the CDBG, which we can charge administration fees. So every grant, every annual allocation that we get from CDBG, we charge 20% of it to the grant. So in 2021, staff salaries were offset by $100,100 to the administrative line item. We charged $19,000, $20,000 to the planning board and zoning board rider accounts and $22,000 or $23,000 to the planning board and zoning board escrow accounts. In addition, $7,000 was charged to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And it's really notable to point out that these funds are not taxpayer funds. They are funds paid by applicants, which result in a savings of $150,000 for a net salary expense of $366,000 for the township in 2021, and our goal is to maintain that for 2022. Our operating budget increased a little bit by $3,140 to cover additional continuing education classes because now all of our staff are certified. In previous budgets, we requested funding to get them certified. They're all certified, so now they have to maintain their credits. And we also increased the expert services line item to $32,500 needed for planning, studies, and plans, of which I'd been borrowing from Melissa Cummins' budget the past 2 years. She told me to get my own money, so I did. And in 2022, we will continue to facilitate professional training for employees through the Rutgers University Office of Continuing Education and assist and support boards and the planner and the zoning officer at the front counter when residents are requesting information. The other budgeted items are the same from 2021 and primarily cover attendance at required training, professional dues, and printing supplies. So now I'm going to turn over the presentation to Chris Romano to explain what the zoning office does, what the zoning officer does, and to give you some fun statistics.
Thank you, Tara. And thank you, Mayor and Council, Joanne, for the opportunity. I appreciate it. So the zoning office is staffed by 2 employees, the zoning officer and the clerk. However, the entire staff is cross-trained to answer basic zoning questions on the phone and at the counter as needed. In addition, 6 of the staff have received their land use administrator and/or zoning officer certification from Rutgers Office of Continuing Education and annually receive continuing education credits to maintain their expertise. The zoning office processes applications for development that may or may not have required a board approval. Zoning applications can range from a request to build a 90 square foot shed to the development of a major shopping center. The zoning officer looks for consistency with board approvals or the zoning code. So as you can see in the presentation, get it up on the screen, the bar graph? Oh, it's up there. So this gives you a good snapshot of what we review, for instance, in 2021, as far as zoning applications. So you can see the most that we get are fences, followed by solar panels. They're still going strong. Ever since the storm, generators, we're doing a ton of generators. And then as you see, down the list, we have decks and additions, above-ground pools, in-ground pools, tenant fit-ups, things like that. So it gives you a good snapshot of the quantity and specifically what we're looking at, what we're approving and giving permits on. Our office is involved with all development applications from the initial informal meeting requests with applicants through the permitting process. We are also involved in the site inspection and development compliance in concert with the engineering, fire code, and building divisions. In 2021, we processed 1,937 permit applications and brought in $110,000 in revenue from issuance of permits. Our office fees for principal structure review is $75, and for an accessory structure, it is $50. As zoning officer, I spent a lot of my time responding to requests regarding permissible uses, non-conforming uses, and preparing written responses for zoning determinations. I work with the code enforcement officers and the engineering staff to enforce property maintenance code, zoning code, site plan compliance, and tree clearing issues. The zoning officer serves as staff to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, attends all of the meetings and prepare completeness reports to the board for all small bulk variance applications. The zoning officer also contributes to use variance and site plan reviews through collaboration with the planner and board engineer. The Zoning Board of Adjustment can also act on applications involving subdivisions and site plans, the same as the planning board. However, the zoning board acts primarily on variances involving individual residential undersized lots or proposed structures that don't meet the height or setback requirements. The zoning board also hears matters involving uses that are not permitted in the particular zone. In 2021, the board heard 84 cases, approved 64, and denied 0. And many are yet to be decided. The board collected $26,043 in application fees and $193,582 in escrow fees. And as Tara stated, it should be noted that each board more than doubled the amount of cases that were heard in 2020 and triple the amount in 2019. So that concludes my little portion, and I'll hand it back over to Tara. Thank you.
So just a brief overview. The planning board is the board that hears cases for permitted developments in the municipality, usually site plan applications and subdivisions. And the board secretary processed the applications from beginning to end. The board heard 38 cases in 2021 and collected $49,731 in application fees and $120,104 in escrow fees, with 0 denials and 33 approvals. We have one secretary that manages both boards with a part-time assistant. We also held a number of master plan hearings, including municipal public access plan, floodplain management plan, plan endorsement visioning hearing, and reviewed land use ordinances for consistency with the master plan. Our GIS office, we have one GIS specialist who's shared with mostly the whole municipality, but mostly with Alyssa and myself in engineering. He works closely with the BTMUA, and he's in charge of updating the tax maps every year, and maintaining our parcel layer coverage as well in concert with the Brick Township Municipal Utility Authority. He works with other departments like police, public works, recreation, and he maintains all the flood hazard area open space mapping and spreadsheets that were submitted for CRS approval. This year, one of the main reasons why we achieved the Class 5 rating was because our GIS specialists did an enormous mapping project where we identified open space properties that we did not receive credit for previously. So that should be noted that, you know, without our GIS specialists, we wouldn't have gotten to a Class 5. He also helps other departments, like working on the other projects like the Adopt a Spot program, plan endorsement, data management, and the CDBG mailing. When we send out these thousands of mailings, somebody manages that database of all those addresses, and that's our GIS specialist. I serve as the planner for both boards and the administrator of both boards. I have to attend all the meetings except for some cases that only have like decks and sheds and fences. Christopher handles all those. I'm also the Affordable Housing Liaison, and serve as staff to all the township's committees that are required of me. And I coordinate most of the township's grants, which is the next part of my presentation, which I think is most important to the budget presentation. Since I assist most departments in writing grants, and I manage many of them, we're including the revenue that we received in grant funds in our budget this year, just to point out the value that we bring to the township. So the Division of Land Use and Planning was awarded $2,126,336 in grants this year. We were able to charge back to the CDBG grant, like I mentioned before, $100,100, and that covered partial salaries of 6 staff members. One staff member who we also share, there's an 8th half member who also we share with Dan Newman, one of our clerks who manages all the housing rehabilitation program management. So we charge back my salary, her salary, and 4 other staff people's salary, including the finance division, who one of those staff clerks handles all of the finance management for the CDBG grant. In 2021, we were also awarded additional grants of $79,500 and I'm sorry, this is what we gave out, not what we brought in. So in 2021, the CDBG grants that you know that we talked of when we saw the Meals for Wheels presentation earlier, some of the CDBG funds that we received, we give out the grants to service organizations in our community. And in 2021, we were awarded $311,000. But we also gave out $54,000 in public service grants to between 10 and 15 nonprofit agencies that provide services to the residents of Brick, including homelessness prevention, counseling services to seniors, individuals with disabilities, abused women and children, and nutrition projects. We also completed 5 housing rehabilitation projects administered by our staff, and we just awarded, you all did, 3 new single-family homeowner rehabilitation contracts for 2022 using 2021 money. We also do housing rehabilitation through grants that we give to Northern Ocean Habitat for Humanity and Hands for All, which do emergency housing rehabilitation projects, which totaled to date, we've rehabilitated 107 income qualified residents housing rehabilitation projects in the township. In addition, we got awarded funds for the CARES Act to the CDBG program, so we had to manage 2 separate additional allocations of $177,000 and $494,000, for which we gave out $124,000 of it in additional grants to those public service agencies, and we provided 2 additional grants, one of $200,000 for rent mortgage utility program to Homes Now, and $199,000 to Preferred Behavioral Health, who has helped 134 children and their families to date with a grant that we gave them of $199,000 for counseling. And we worked and coordinated through the school district to identify those children in need. So The planning staff continues to work towards obtaining more grant funding, and one of my favorite things to do is the Green Acres grants. And you all are very familiar with that. We received an additional $1.1 million in revenue for grants totaling $3,100,000 in direct grant funds for the multi-year, multi-park project, including Bernie Cook, Birchwood, and Bayside Parks. We also were awarded an additional $770,000 in grants for improvement to Mallard Point Park. We worked with Ocean County Natural Lands Trust on 2 preservation projects, one of which we contributed, as you know, $400,000 to a $2.8 million acquisition in Osprey Point. And we participated in that project by donating 1.24 acres of land. Instead of donating funds, we partnered with the deed restriction of land for that project. And some of the more fun projects that we like to do as a staff is maintaining and managing the community garden at Havens Homestead, the Michael P. Fowler Community Garden. And we take in the applications for residents who want a garden there. They pay $20 and they get one of the 13 beds. And we work with the Parks Division to make sure that it's all maintained and they have water and they can get in there and weed. We had 2 new boxes completed that are ADA compliant. They're much higher. I just went to see them today, and they're in front of the garden, and they're going to be great for folks who can't really bend down to get into the gardening beds. We did just apply for a grant for a pollinator garden that we're going to plant behind it when we get the funds, hopefully, and we're really looking forward to highlighting that at the Green Fair this year. And then the last thing that I wanted to just mention was the affordable housing program, which is a lot of our revenue that we bring in. That's a program that not a lot of people understand what the affordable housing program is. They just get aggravated when they have to pay a fee when they get a permit. But what the affordable housing program does is it collects fees as part of residential and commercial development, and this fee is authorized by Fair Housing Act and the New Jersey Council of Affordable Housing. The township zoning staff calculates the affordable housing fee and collect it in 2 parts, 50% of the assessed value or the estimated value at the time of permit pickup, and then the remaining 50% of the actual assessed value that the tax assessor assigns when they get their certificate of occupancy. These funds are then utilized to offset salaries for planning staff, and 85% of the fund is swept into a trust fund account that's utilized by our affordable housing administrator, Homes Now, Inc. 15% of it's retained and managed by the finance office, and what they do is I oversee the reporting and correspondence. So we're responsible to report to the court master annually on our progress with our affordable housing maintenance. We have 880 deed restricted properties in the township that we have to make sure stay affordable. We have to make sure that income qualified folks are living there, that there's no mortgages or liens on these homes to retain these credits, or else the township's on the hook to build new ones. So that is part of what we do with the compliance with the Fair Share Act. That's it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Open to council for questions or comments on this budget presentation. Seeing none. Open to public for questions and comments on this budget presentation. Yes, sir. Yes.
Comment and request on the planning board. I was there last night, as was, I think, 5 of you. I won't mention who, but I think there was at least 5. You guys knew that it was going to be a big turnout. That's why it got moved over there. However, they didn't open the doors till 6:30 to let people in. By the time everybody got through security, it was 7:30. So the meeting started a half hour late. Okay, that stuff happens too. However, from my understanding, they only quit at 10 o'clock. So my first request was going to be, if you started at a half hour late, maybe you ought to extend it a half hour just to cover 3 hours. Now, all those people, and there were hundreds there, showed up for that meeting, and all you got through was the architect and part of engineering. So all those people are going to have to come back, and I realize Brenton Woods is going to be a big one. I mean, one of the big ones. So it's going to go on forever. So my second request would be, and I realize you all put in long hours, right? But if you know you're going to have a special meeting and there's going to be a lot of people there and they got to keep coming back, maybe on the special meetings you can extend the time. I know you don't have a time frame. Other meetings don't have a time frame. I know you like to get home, but you don't say, we're quitting at 9 o'clock and we're going out the door. So maybe under consideration for all the people that show up at the meetings, the special meetings, you might want to extend them an extra hour so people don't have to keep coming back, and get dragged out.
I'll convey your request to the board chairman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from public? Mr. Sluka.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. You did hit one thing that say a lot of people don't understand affordable housing. I had my question on affordable housing before you even said that, because I do have questions. We have 880 units in Brick.
Yes. 880 deed-restricted affordable housing units.
That includes apartments and houses?
Correct. And group homes.
And what?
And group homes and nursing facilities.
Oh, we have a breakdown of each one, so,
Mhm.
but there are single-family houses also as
Absolutely.
part of it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. To me, it sounds like we're losing tax by doing a lot of that stuff, but I guess it's required under the state. So the question I really had with this is, when we're doing all these 880, that's a number, and isn't it a percentage of how much you have in the town? Isn't it? I thought that's the way it worked.
So, our obligation that the Council on Affordable Housing assigned to us and that we negotiated down because it was a much greater number than we were required, requires us to have what's called a growth share, not a growth share, I'm sorry, a realistic development potential number. And that realistic development potential number is greater than the 880. The 880 exist. What the Fair Share Act requires is that we create new opportunities for affordable housing. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a percentage of, it just means that we have to pursue new development projects, like potentially a veterans housing facility, or we would look at purchasing deed restrictions from existing units. It doesn't mean that we have to build based on a percentage.
Right. It's not 1% of the total amount of housing units you have in
No.
the town or something.
No.
Because
That's the fee, that's the affordable housing fee, is 1% of any improvement.
Okay.
But that's not the amount. First of all, we're not, even though we've tripled our board cases, it was mostly just for minor subdivisions of 1 lot to 2 lot, or for variances for sheds or decks. We didn't grow much. We actually lost population.
Oh, we
from
lost people, but did we lose housing?
We did lose housing
did.
from Sandy, absolutely.
Oh, since then, right, but
Yeah,
not
we
recently,
still have not
right?
recovered the amount of
Yeah,
units.
I know from the beginning.
Correct.
So if we add more houses in Brick, or more, whatever it happens to be, whether single-family, double-family, or apartments, my question really came down to, do we have to then add affordable housing, which hurts the total amount of revenue coming into the town?
No, we don't have to create, all we have to do is create opportunities.
Right.
So
Doesn't
one of the
force you into
doesn't
it.
force us to construct anything.
Like every 28 house has to be,
No.
okay, so it avoids that.
That was
way.
actually called the growth share, and
Right.
the growth share was thrown out of court saying
Oh,
that it
that's
didn't
the
have an
one.
incentive to build.
Okay, that's what I remember way back when, that's what I thought I heard. It was
It
like a
used to,
percentage.
multifamily housing, we have an ordinance in the municipality that if multifamily housing is built,
Right.
15% of those units have to be set aside for low and moderate income
Right, but
housing.
not overall.
But not overall, no.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Ms. Cole.
John Sluka's question created one in my name, and I would like to, with the approval of the chair, address Tara directly, since I think she's the one that can answer it. Greenbrier 2. Documents say it's subject to the Fair Housing Act of 1988. Now, are the 600 units in Greenbrier 2 among the 800 you're speaking about?
No.
No, go on,
So the
elaborate.
Fair Housing Act just doesn't talk about affordability, it also talks about protected classes and discrimination. So.
All right,
any-
it's on
any-
age restriction that we would
Correct.
be under the fair housing age description.
Age discrimination. Or
Yes.
disability discrimination. So, under the Fair Housing Act, there's a provision that states that age-restricted communities can restrict who can live there up to a threshold, and I believe that, I don't,
55 years, it was moved
Yeah.
up from 48 to 55 being the minimum you can set aside. It can require somebody to be in the house that's that age
correct, but it
and
also,
over 18.
right, but it also allows for a certain percentage don't have to meet that criteria. So say, for instance, you
Well,
have someone.
you've got, now you're opening a door where there are going to be a whole lot of people in this town have no idea about that. I do. I know all about it. But most people don't know the 20% that's not counted, that they can be everybody younger than 55
They're
in the
still
house.
subject to approval by the board to be allowed, by your association board, but.
Not really, because the association board doesn't have it in their covenants and and bylaws, and they don't know about it. They have no idea. So Tara, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You are definitely a town planner par excellence. I don't know Mr. Romano, but I did know Michael Fowler well. In fact, when the new master plan was put in, which is still the one in 2007, I was the only one said, I'll work with them. So God bless you. You are par excellence.
Thank you.
Nan.
Anybody else from public? Yes, sir.
Mark Vasquez for 40 Lotta Court. Just a quick question. Who writes the grants for all of these?
I write most of the grants with the assistance of the department who's requesting them. So with recreation or administration or engineering, I usually handle the finishing of it, the collection of information, and submission.
And how much of your time is spent on these grants, would you say?
It depends. It depends on what we're applying for. Usually it takes me for a typical Green Acres development application, so like for a park, it probably takes me about 50 hours to write the application and submit it.
Okay. And what percentage of projects are you guys currently behind on? Not saying that correlating to any of the two, but how many of your projects as a department are you guys behind on right now?
I don't understand the question. Behind on, what do you mean behind on?
What percentage of projects that you guys have, right, the cases that you have right now?
Oh, cases,
Excuse
okay.
me, I'm sorry, cases are you guys behind on right now?
We have a statutory requirement to deem applications complete, depending on what they are, with either in 45 or 95 days. We probably have about a 95% achievement on that. Some cases we have to ask for time waivers because the professionals need additional time to review an application in order to make sure that it's advanced to the place where it actually could be heard and considered by the board. So I'd say about 95% good,
Okay, so 5% would be.
5% behind.
Okay, perfect. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from public? Seeing none, close public. Thank you very much. We have another presentation for buildings. It's Dan Newman, please. And just for the record, I think you look marvelous. Just for the record, I'm just saying it, just saying it.
My wife will tell you I look old. I've aged. And most of it. I want to thank Mayor Ducey, council members, and our business administrator. We're reporting tonight on the budget request for the Division of Inspections. Division of Inspections is empowered to enforce New Jersey adopted Uniform Construction Code, as well as local ordinances related to property maintenance and the occupancy and reoccupancy of rental units. The division therefore has two budgets. One is dedicated to the enforcement of the Uniform Construction Code, which is budget 195, and one is dedicated to the municipal code enforcement of our property maintenance code and rental inspections, which is budget 196. Starting with 195, the purpose of the Uniform Construction Code is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of people. Also, the code is designed to encourage innovation in construction, including the use of modern technological methods and elimination of obsolete construction regulations that increase the cost of construction. For our workload, the number of permits issued in 2021 was 3,081 permits, which is a 10% increase from 2020. With an additional 904 permit updates, which is an increase of about 8%, for a total of 4,272 permits issued. I anticipate a large number of permits in 2022. The reason for that is because from January 1st, 2022 through February 28th, 2022, we issued 22% more permits than in the same period in 2021. If that trend continues, we will issue more than 5,000 permits in 2022. That actually brings us up to numbers that we were after Sandy. We were up 6,000 right after Sandy and 5,000 for a few years after Sandy. The number of inspections performed in 2021 was 19,201, which is an increase of about 12% from 2020. The portion of the division staff dedicated to the enforcement of the UCC in 2022 includes 7 full-time clerical positions. One of those clerical positions, as Tara mentioned, I share sometimes with Tara for Community Development Block Grant program. One clerk from 2021 was transferred from my department to a different division, but she returned on November 1st, 2022. I'm sorry, 2021. That's a typo. We also had a long-term member of our clerical staff retire on September 30th, 2021. Our clerical duties include permit applications intake, accepting them at our front counter, data entry, inspection scheduling, shepherding the application through the plan review process, processing any violation notices, and ones approved by the subcode officials issuing permits. Also, actually, which I didn't include here, processing certificates of approval and/or occupancy at the end of the project. And then it comes to me for review. The clerical staff are the frontline staff that deals with the public and contractors on a daily basis, and they do a great job. Our inspection staff includes a building subcode official and 2 full-time building inspectors. I presently am serving as the plumbing subcode official, and we have 3 full-time plumbing inspectors. We employ 1 full-time electrical subcode official. We employ 2 full-time electrical inspectors. In 2021, we actually had 1 full-time and we had 2 part-time electrical inspectors. However, in July of 2021, one of our part-time electrical inspectors left for a full-time position somewhere else, so we offered the other part-time inspector a full-time position. He took it. So we basically are using 2 full-time electrical inspectors now. Fire, we continue to utilize the services provided through a shared service agreement with the Fire Bureau to provide fire inspection and plan review services. I'm going to throw one little thing in that happened last night, and that is I was notified that one of our fire inspectors from that shared service agreement just was awarded the Fire Inspector of the Year for the state of New Jersey. So he'll get a award ceremony in Building Safety Week down in Atlantic City. We also employ an elevator inspector part-time to inspect elevators. Revenue expenditures, much of the revenue for permit fees is based on the value of construction of the project undertaken. Some is based on cubic volume of structures. The value of construction for 2021 was $118,235,214. Our revenue generated by the permit fees was $2,329,469. That is consistent with the amount collected in 2021. Additional revenue from items such as penalties, ongoing inspections of public swimming pools, variation applications, the yearly testing that's required for backflow prevention devices, brought the grand total for revenue to $2,692,428. Our expenditure for salaries in 2021 budget was $1,404,114.19. Our request for 2022 salaries will be $1,668,500. In 2021, we expended a total of $44,562.21 in overtime. We are requesting $60,000 for overtime in 2022. My office works diligently to limit and, when possible, reduce overtime. However, the amount of overtime for construction inspectors fluctuates significantly. Workload is part of the reason, but the majority is that inspectors must be dispatched to emergencies like structure fires and car accidents that hit buildings and damage buildings. Most of the time after hours, I respond to those incidents, and because I'm salaried, I do not receive overtime. But if I'm not available, other inspectors are entitled to receive overtime payments. You'd actually be surprised how often 3 o'clock in the morning a car hits a building and I have to go out, at least a couple times every month or two. Our operating expense request is increased slightly from $100,060 to $104,050. This increase is primarily due to the increase in line item 243, which I'll explain when I get there. There are a few line items that I do want to point out to the council. In 2020, we didn't spend any money requested in line item 204, and we're requesting $1,000 in 2022. In 2021, we didn't spend any money. This line item is for training and conferences. Actually, in 2020 and 2021, we did not spend any money. The reason is that this is primarily used for Building Safety Conference, the place where they're going to give the award for the Fire Inspector of the Year. This is an important conference providing training that fulfills an inspector's continuing education units that he's required to have, and it also is a good information gathering tool. The building subcode officials, some clerical staff, and myself usually attend this conference. However, because of COVID, it's been canceled for the last 2 years, so that's why we haven't spent it. But it is held May 4th, 5th, and 6th, and we intend to attend. I'm signed up already. From line item 224, uniforms, we expended $460.25. In 2021, we purchased jackets with the Township logo on it. We anticipate replacing some of the shirts that we've bought in the past in 2022. When an inspector arrives at a home, they carry an ID card, but when they wear jackets, hats, shirts that identify themselves as Township employees, it places residents at ease. So that's why we budget that. Line item 243, the actual one I had mentioned previously, we only spent $371, but we're requesting $5,000. The reason for that is we are presently going through a model code change process. All new model codes should be adopted in 2022. That includes us purchasing new model code book editions and any reference standards that we're going to need to purchase. Not limited to, included but not limited to, the residential code, the IRC, residential code, building code, plumbing, electric, fuel, gas, mechanical, barrier-free, and energy codes. All those are separate code books that will require purchase. Most codes have been are published by the International Code Council in New Jersey, but with adopted changes by New Jersey. So they produce a New Jersey version of those codes for our purchase. The plumbing code is actually through PHC. Well, it used to be PHCC. It's the National Standard Plumbing Code, slightly different. That may change to International Plumbing Code from ICC, and the fire code is the NFPA 70, which is also a different code agency. But the rest of them all come from the International Code Council. For line item 246 is for protective clothing, hard hats, gloves. We only replace a small amount of those each year, as needed by the inspectors. Line item 268 was used to purchase credit card readers. You'll see I reduced it. We don't expect to need any additional readers. We've bought 3 in the last 2 years. I also supervise the code enforcement and property maintenance rental inspection budget. So the purpose of the municipal code is to protect the quality of life of our residents and ensure property owners provide safe housing when their units are rented. Our code enforcement staff includes 3 full-time inspectors. In addition, we have a supervisor who's helping out with code enforcement. That is he's an archivist. And we have 1 clerk who is assigned to the code enforcement office to provide support for inspections and to carry out clerical functions. The code enforcement permit clerk deals with the in-person and telephone complaints that come in. The clerical staff passes those concerns and complaints on to the code enforcement officer that covers the zone for that area. We broke the town into 3 zones and logs all activity on the complaint. In addition, the clerk processes rental certificate applications. 1 code enforcement officer does investigate during weekend hours. He doesn't work on Monday, but he works on Saturday. It does not create any kind of overtime, but it allows us to do some investigations on Saturdays. He basically provides a report every Saturday, so I know what he did and how he did it. I don't come in to immediately to directly supervise it. Workload. Code enforcement officers conducted rental inspections on 833 properties. The initial inspections discovered sometimes discovered deficiencies. So following repairs, 108 re-inspections were performed in 2021. So the total number of inspections, therefore, was 941. This generated revenue of $83,600. The inspectors also investigate properties based on complaints or spot checks of known problem properties. Those inspections generated 1,696 violation notices for violations of the municipal code. 1,519 have been closed. 177 remain open. 49 have been issued summonses to appear in municipal court. We also have a property maintenance review board. The property maintenance review board is an active body that meets monthly to 6 weeks with few exceptions. Their work remains essential. The township works to ensure the property maintenance code is followed both for safety reasons and overall aesthetics of our neighborhoods. Our staff works diligently to prepare cases to be presented to the board, make factual findings, and then implement the board's orders. Individuals that respond to code enforcement violations or respond to orders of the municipal court judge generally are not summoned to appear before the property maintenance board. What happens if they don't do what they're supposed to do, and they don't show up for court, and they don't answer, then they come before the property maintenance board. Only $51.10 was used for overtime in 2021. Considering the lack of expenditures for overtime, it's appropriate to reduce that budget but for overtime by 50%. So I'm reducing that budget to budget request to $2,500. It is still important to have money in this line in case of emergencies. When we do have an emergency, we often use code enforcement officers to help. Expenditures, the request for operating and expenses is relatively consistent with 2021. The request for a 2022 budget is $151,650, which is actually a decrease of $200. There are a few line items that I want to point out to the council. The request for line item 204 is for training and conferences. Most training and conferences were canceled. Hopefully, training will be available this year. We budgeted $325. We spent, I believe it was $51 for an online course that one of the guys was able to take. The request for line item 243 is being reduced to $150. We spent $282.75 from this line item in 2020. This was for the expenditure of to purchase additional property maintenance code books. I bought a few property maintenance code books, so we shouldn't need any more this year, so I reduced it. The request for line item 256, printing and binding, is also being reduced from last year. We've made a effort in the last 2 years to institute changes that allow the use of more online forms, so we don't have to print as many. We've reduced the request to $175 from $250. Again, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to present our budget. We look forward to another year of supporting and assisting our residents. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Open to council for questions or comments on the budget presentation. Seeing none, open to public for the questions or comments on the budget presentation. Mr. Sluka.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. This is getting bad. This is a couple of meetings in a row. Part of that slide, and again, try listening and watch the slide at the same time, sometimes does get a little confusing. I thought I saw, as we were talking, as trying to listen, that we have an expenditure for the salaries in the budget of 2021. Was that we actually spent it, or was that actually the budget, that $1,400,000? And we're requesting a salary of $1.7 million.
We spent 1.4 last year, and we're requesting 1.6.
We spent or budgeted?
We spent 1.4,
And
over
we-
1.4.
Okay. Again, I might have sort of signed, I thought it said 2021 again.
That was our expenditure for salaries last year.
Okay, and the budget is for 2022.
Correct, so
Okay.
again.
Does it say that on there?
No, it
Like I
says
said.
2021.
Okay. And of course, the one thing I always hate is the overtime. As I think I said it last year, the year before, and the year before that. If we're only spending one case, spending $44,000 and requesting $60,000 again, we never know. We should be cutting back on our overtime. Now that we have a Saturday work, we really should be cutting back on it. I would think we'd be requesting less. No.
Well, as I stated, the vast majority of the overtime is emergency call-outs. I can't predict how many cars are going to be driven into
Yeah,
buildings
and so
tonight.
that's why we always have a budget. I'm only asking this question because I don't want to tell you how many times I was asked the same question by the board of directors of a big company and saying, you only spent $4,000 last year, why do you want $7,000 this year? And we sort of tried to say the same thing, and 2 people on the board did not buy it.
Well,
They would say, well, then come back to us if you really think you need it, otherwise cut it back. They want to cut back every year, not keep requesting more, so there's always that leeway. And then we say, well, we can borrow the money from here to be able to use for here. And he says, if you need it in that place, do it in that place. You
Well,
know,
I will tell you that I will go a month, sometimes a month and a half without a call-out. But I also had 3 in one weekend.
Okay.
Where we lost a
All right.
house, we had a car into a building, and then we had a smaller fire, it wasn't 100% lost.
Right.
But I have to go out and determine whether the property is safe to be inhabited. If it's not, I have to kick them out, unfortunately. If we get them rehoused, I will tell you that when my phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's the Brick Police Department, I know I'm on my way out to an emergency call.
Yeah, I know.
And
I know how it goes, but like I said, I would tend to think that if we don't reach the budget one year, that's fine. But if we don't reach the budget the second year, and the third year, and the fourth year, maybe our budget's a little bit too high. That's all I'm concerned with.
Well, in 2019, we spent $52,000 in overtime, so last year we spent 31.
All right.
It's an unknown, and
All right,
for us, as a
it hasn't been
micro
60 now,
business-
you're just telling me in the last 3 years.
Well, in 2017, it was 113,000. In
Oh,
2018.
that was Sandy? No, that was way after that, yeah.
Way after that. In 2018, it was 35,000. 2019, it was over 52,000. 2020, it was 31. Last year, it was 49. How many
Yeah,
cars are going to hit buildings?
it's hard to judge,
How many
I know.
cars are going to hit buildings
I know,
this year?
it's-
Hopefully none, but.
I always say it's hard to judge, but I always hate the idea of, always seems like our budgets, and I tried to do them myself for years, where I put a budget number that I said, I may not hit it, but at least I'm safe with it. And I don't want to tell you how many times I was told, you did 4 years in a row, you're going over. It's about time you started lowering that budget, you know?
Well, for us, it's not as easy as going to your boss or a board chairman and saying, well, I've had
I
several
know.
cars in fires and I'm over, it doesn't
You
work
just
like
don't
that
know,
for us.
yeah.
You know, we can't transfer money till November, so we have to
All
be
right,
sure.
you gotta
we
do
have
it all
what
at
we
once,
need.
you got at the end of the year. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cole?
Hancock, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. And first, the comment. Mr. Newman, you did a wonderful job with the presentation.
Thank you.
And while I'm at it, I won't use my 5 minutes. I already have it promised to somebody to clarify some remarks that concern the person. In your case, I will use these minutes to say that I've known Mr. Newman, I think, the entire time that I've been here. I had to have, it was the previous town clerk, George Savasco, who was hired out. He was a retired man from a utility, and instead of promoting Ginny Lampman, who had all the credentials, Steve Acropolis promoted her, though. They brought in George, and George did help me when I went to the building department and had information from the person who was doing work for me about the township not charging certain fees since it was done under ADA. I had to have a bathroom made wheelchair accessible for when my son would come. That was a major consideration. And I also wound up having a wheelchair ramp that people gave me great grief, and they were the people in my community coming here and having papers all over the place. The Mason said, "You're known all over the town because they can't find your papers," with people making complaints. But the wheelchair ramp, there was a problem. The last part of the railing on it that is next to the driveway, and Mr. Newman came out, saw what the situation was, that the recommendation, it could not be turned to a right angle, and signed the variance that the way it was built was proper. So thank you, Danny, for that. Thank you for all of our wonderful conversations since, here and over at church. Bye.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Vic Finelli, while you're here, I noticed there's an agenda item for supplying code enforcement for Manalocan. Could you briefly explain what that entails?
Sure. Manalocan is, for whatever reason, has asked if we would enter in a shared service agreement to provide code enforcement inspections for them.
Total or just backup?
I believe that the deal is we're going to do all of it, yeah.
Yeah, we have to pass through Manalocan to get to the Barrier Island section of Brick Township.
Oh, I'm
so-
not against
right,
it.
yeah.
Don't get the
So,
wrong
yeah,
idea.
We will be the code enforcement,
The
construction.
primary.
Code enforcement
there's-
officer
there's-
for the borough.
Only around 600 residential homes. There's no commercial in Manalocan, so it really isn't going to add tremendous amount to the workload.
But we do get paid for that and make money for
We
Oh, yeah,
do.
we're going to be paid for it, yeah.
So what would happen, you get a call at 3 o'clock and you have to go out even though you don't,
No, it's
Well,
not for the construction official.
that's different.
Just for code enforcement.
It's for code enforcement for property maintenance. They don't go out for traffic incidents into
okay,
buildings.
so just if you get a call,
They're they're construction official, who they have their own construction official and their own building department, would have to go out to those things, separate from code
code
enforcement.
enforcement. So this would be just like somebody calls in and says somebody's violating the codes or something, you would go out.
Garbage, debris, weeds, they're not mowing their lawn, those
Okay.
type of things. And you probably have, I'm going to make a big assumption, but you're going to probably have a lot less of that in Manalocan than you do in Brick, so,
Maintenance.
yeah, maintenance, property
Yeah,
maintenance.
The gardener didn't do his job.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I know we do like beach maintenance, I know we do lifeguards, I know we supply police officers to the prosecutor. Do we do anything, other shared service or things, which by the way, I'm all for?
We have the Brick MUA sign shop shared service, where we make the signs for the Brick Township MUA, and we bill them for that work.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, and we have a shared service agreement with the Board of Education. The mayor reminded me for gas.
I'm all for bringing extra money in, so put the thank you sign is up there.
I knew you were coming.
Thank you. I have a thing about the school board makes me come up with one good thing at each meeting, so I try to do that here too. Tonight it was easy.
Thank you. Anybody else from public? Seeing none, close public. Thank you very much for your presentations. Thank you. I appreciate your time. This brings us to ordinances on first readings. 5-1.
Calendar year 2022, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A 4-4514.
Thank you. This ordinance allows the township to establish a cap bank for future use. The ordinance allows the increase of budget appropriations to allow the township to bank any unused monetary room. This cap bank ordinance allows the township to increase budget appropriations by 3.5% over the prior year's appropriation, and to bank any unused appropriation room for the next 2 succeeding years. The ordinance is simply precautionary. It is not funded through a tax increase. Since it is only used for subsequent years, should we need to fund a one-time expenditures, the monies available by this cap rate ordinance may be used to offset costs of any future disasters and the need of any future emergency appropriations. We are not generating cash. We are creating the ability to raise money should we need it. If the funds are not needed in the succeeding 2 years, the bank is simply dissolved. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Open to council for comments? Seeing none, close council. Roll call.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Menachino.
Yes.
Thank you.
This brings us to 5-2.
An ordinance of the Township of Brick, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 245 of the Township Code to add a new article to be entitled Placement of Small Cell Facilities and Wireless Poles in the Public Right-of-Way.
Councilman Halloran.
Thank you, Council President. The Council's Public Safety Committee recommended this ordinance in an effort to regulate 5G infrastructure that was researched by the Township's telecommunications expert. The ordinance is necessary to give the Township the ability to have some say in the 5G technology that is coming into municipalities across the state. According to federal law, municipalities can't stop the technology. The only actions municipalities can do is regulate the equipment. This proposed ordinance allows the Township to drive the aesthetics. The cell carriers are looking to rent space on private properties, and the Township has no control other than requiring site plan approval. An ordinance allows the Township to establish parameters for the design, height, and et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. A motion and a second, please.
Motion.
Second.
Open to council. Close council. Roll call.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Menachino.
Yes.
Thank you.
This brings us to the municipal budget, Resolution 6-1.
Introduction of the 2022 municipal budget.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Council President Menachino. One of the most important duties of the mayor is to prepare an annual budget to fund the operation of the municipal government and all of its functions. This is a duty that I, as well as the township's entire financial team, takes very seriously. Every year we begin the budget with the same goal in mind. That goal is to create a budget that adequately funds the services that the people of Brick Township deserve, with an emphasis on public safety, while at the same time keeping our tax rate as stable as we can, while not jeopardizing the long-term financial health of our community either. So tonight I present the budget that we are confident achieves that goal and continues the record of fiscal conservatism that this administration and council has established over the past 8 years. Before I begin, I would like to thank our business administrator, Joanne Bergen, and our chief financial officer, Maureen Laffey-Berg, for their work on this budget, together with all department heads. The municipal budget consists of two major components, the spending plan and then the revenue plan. So this year's proposed spending plan totals $111,254,968.72. And yes, it goes right down to the actual penny because that's the way budgeting happens. We can't, there's no rounding up or rounding down, things like that. So the proposed spending plan includes a number of significant increases. There's an increase of $529,000 in police salary and wage. There's an increase of $587,443 in bond principal payment. And there's also an increase of $1,580,000 in insurance costs. That's $3 million alone between just those increases. That's 3 cents on the budget, 3 cents raise. There's also anticipated increases in materials and goods and resources that we have to anticipate based on the state of the country at this time. We also have contractually obligated increases that are included. So these increases are all well over $3 million. However, we worked with our department and division heads to go over the budget to look for opportunities to stabilize or reduce costs. And this is something we do every single year, but especially this year with these increases. Proud of this administration and council's record on spending management. In the 9 years, this is the 9th year as I took office as mayor, the municipal budget has increased $12,820,429, which is an average of about $1.4 million a year. In the 9 years prior to the start of this administration, the budget increased $40,860,383, which was an increase of $4.54 million a year. So that's a difference of $3.14 million a year. And it's year after year. It's 9 years. It's not just a 1 year total of, oh, okay, we did it 1 year. This is the 9th consecutive year. The average annual spending increase for this administration is roughly 68% lower than the average increase of the previous administration over the same 9-year comparable period. The revenue that funds this plan includes grant funding, which we heard about earlier, state aid funding, fees, and taxes. That's the only place we can get money from as a township. This year's revenue plan utilizes a tax levy of $80,547,357. The proposed local purpose tax rate, that's the portion of the total tax rate that is used by the municipal government, is 76.6% per $100 of assessed value. So this, what it equates out to, it's an increase of only 1.9 cents. Even though we had so many expenses go up over 3 cents, we have an increase this year of 1.9 cents. So what that means, that's what people care about. For the median assessed home value in Brick Township, which is $251,800, this equates to an increase of roughly $4 per month. So it's about 13 cents a day or so. And this is for the portion of the tax bill that is controlled by the council and the mayor. This is the portion of your total tax bill. So it's 13 cents a day, $4 a month. That funds the Brick Township Police Department, obviously our EMS as well, our garbage and recycling collection, our senior services and senior programs, our road maintenance, our maintenance of our parks and recreational facilities, our leaf collection, Brick Recreation and all the programs they do, as well as all the statutorily mandated services, such as for what we heard about today with the planning and the engineering, tax assessors, and everything else. So basically, the township taxes that makes up about 1/3 of your total tax bill. The remaining 2/3 is controlled by the Brick Township Public Schools, the county government, and various county agencies, as well as your local fire district, and there's open space funds that were approved by voters. So again, when you contrast the tax levy growth previous administrations to the growth under this administration, the numbers speak for themselves. So in the 9 years prior to the start of this administration, the tax levy grew 75%, a total growth of $27,956,000. which is an average of $3.1 million a year. But since 2014, the tax levy has grown a total of only $15,628,000, which is about $1.7 million per year. Not quite 50%, but it's actually 44% the tax levy has been decreased under this administration. Then the other side is the revenues. So with regards to revenues outside of taxation include the grants, the fees, and the state aid. Those are all beyond our control. When we can apply for grants, doesn't mean we're going to get them. Fees, you don't know if the weather's going to be nice with beach fees, or how many people want to put in a pool for building department fees and that type of thing. Obviously, no control over that stuff. And state aid, the same. You never know what the governor's going to do, the legislature's going to do. Are they going to cut our state aid? Are they going to keep it the same level? It seems like it's been level for so long. There's never usually increases, so I doubt that's part on the table for anybody in the state. But this year's revenue plan includes $9,950,000 in funds from the township surplus. So we're using almost $10 million of surplus. And that one good thing is that this administration, as well as the council, successfully rebuilt our township surplus following years of near complete depletions. So the anticipated surplus balance will be $13,733,718, which is over $10 million higher than the surplus balance left just a decade ago. And it's more than $13,733,718 is more than $13.7 million, which we had 12 years ago, when the township used 99.42% of the available surplus to balance the budget that year. I made a huge promise never to put us in that position again. It was a horrendous financial position to be in. And every year I stress the importance of having a healthy surplus balance, as it is an indicator of fiscal health for a municipality. Another fiscal priority of mine was reducing the township's outstanding debt. So when I took office on January 1st, 2014, the township debt was at $168,335,337. And crazy enough, the township's debt had grown 86% between January 1st of 2007 and the day I took office, January 1st of 2014. When I took office, one of the things I wanted to do is reduce the debt, and made that one of the top priorities. So over the past 8 years, we've succeeded, and we've reduced the township debt by over $30 million. And just like having a healthy surplus, lowering our outstanding debt is making Brick Township a more financially strong community and will help secure lowering borrowing costs in the future. And just an example of how it helps in the future, as I mentioned earlier, this year alone, we have an increase in our bond principal of $587,443. That's the spending that happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago and more. We're stuck paying those off. That's the way bonding works. You pay them off after 10 years or 20 years. So that's what's going to be great 10 years to 20 years from now, because of the less debt we have now. It's not going to show itself in this budget. Instead, this budget shows an increase in our bond payments. But that's why it's so important to keep on just cutting back on our debt, just like everybody tries to do in their house. Whether you're able to, hopefully you're able to. But if you're not, it's something you work for. You always want to cut your outstanding debt. And it makes Brick Township a more financially strong community and will help secure lowering borrowing costs. I'm proud to present you this year's proposed municipal budget. The township's financial team worked hard to ensure that this budget is in line with the council and my fiscally conservative philosophies. It's a philosophy that has helped us reverse the unrestrained spending practices of the decade previous to our taking office, and has set our township firmly on a more fiscally responsible and strong path. So as always, Mrs. Bergen and myself are available to any council member that would like to discuss the budget as you move forward with your review and eventual adoption down the road. So any questions, you can call us or email or make an appointment if it's involved.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pondereira.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Menachino.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this brings us to our consent agenda.
All matters listed under item consent agenda will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. If discussion is desired on any item, this item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Thank you. 7-1.
Recognize 50th anniversary of the Older Americans Act Nutrition Program.
Thank you. Councilman Halloran.
How appropriate I got this one.
Yeah.
This resolution recognizes the 50th anniversary of the Older Americans Act Nutrition Program. Meals on Wheels has been serving older residents of Ocean County for 50 years and annually serves nearly 240,000 meals through delivery and at congregate sites. Thank you.
Thank you. 7-2.
Recognize National Library Week, April 3rd through the 9th, 2022.
Councilwoman Crates.
Thank you. This National Library Week is a time to celebrate our nation's libraries, library workers' contributions, and promote library use and support. The theme for this year is Connect with Your Library. Thank you.
Thank you. 7-3.
Certification of Compliance, United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
Councilwoman Pontarera.
Thank you. This resolution certifies compliance with the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's enforcement guidance on the consideration of arrest and conviction records in employment decisions under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is a requirement by the Division of Local Government Services as part of the 2022 municipal budget submission. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 7-4.
Authorize receipt of bids in the Gecko Lagoon Dredge and Windward Beach Nourishment Project.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. This is exciting news for those on the Gecko Lagoon. This resolution authorizes the receipt of bids for the Gecko Lagoon Dredge Windward Beach Nourishment Project. This is the first project approved by the NJDEP. It's one of our pilot programs as part of the township-wide dredge permit initiative that the township staff and professionals have been working on for 2 years. The goal is to complete this dredging project shortly after the dredge season starts on June 1st. And it's this town-wide dredge permit is going to help many, many neighborhoods be able to not have the expense of filing for a permit with the DEP because we did it township-wide. So we put that money forward so that different neighborhoods, lagoons, will be able to just not have to pay for the permit. They're just responsible, for the removal of the dredge product as well as the transportation wherever it's going to go. In this particular case, this is the pilot program, the first one that we're going to do under this program, and it's going from the Gecko Lagoon Dredge, from the Gecko Lagoon to Windward Beach for nourishment there to give us some more sand over there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Resolution 7-5.
Authorize receipt of bids mobile ice cream truck.
Councilwoman Pontarera.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the receipt of bids for a mobile ice cream truck. The township awards this bid annually for ice cream sales in high-traffic township parks such as Windward Beach, Traders Cove, throughout the spring and summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 7-6.
Authorize award of bid, purchase and delivery of signed materials, remaining items.
Thank you. Councilman Albanese.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the award of bids for the purchase and delivery of sign materials needed for the Township Sign Shop Creative Visual Systems, Branchburg, and Garden State Highway Products, Millville. Bid notices were provided to 33 prospective bidders from our bidders list and 7 requested bid packages. 2 bids were received and both were awarded. This award includes a not-to-exceed amount of $70,000 per year.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
7-7, please.
Authorize award of contract through New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Program 6/2022 Ford Utility Inceptors.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes an award of contract with Winter Ford Cherry Hill in the amount of $187,110.60 for 6 Ford Utility Interceptors for the police department fleet. Winter Ford is a state contract vendor.
7-8, please.
Authorize closeout change order number 1, Pinewood Park parking lot improvements.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes a closeout change order decrease in the amount of $11,723.45 with S&G Paving for the Pinewood Park parking lot improvement project. Closeout change order reflects decreases in the original contract quantities required to complete the project. Thank you.
Thank you. 7-9, please.
Authorize execution of agreement lifeguarding services for Curtis Point Property Owners Association and Ocean Club at Manahawkin Condominium Association.
Councilman Halloran.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes the execution of lifeguarding services with Curtis Point and Ocean Club at Manahawkin Associations. As in the past, the Township provides the lifeguard services for these beaches, and all costs are covered through these agreements. Thank you.
Thank you. 7-10.
Authorize execution of a shared services agreement with the Borough of Manahawkin for code enforcement services.
Thank you. Councilwoman DeYoung.
This resolution authorizes the execution of shared services agreement with the Borough of Manahawkin for code enforcement services. In this agreement, Brick Township code enforcement officers will respond to property maintenance violations on a part-time, as-needed basis in the Borough of Manahawkin and be reimbursed for those services to cover the costs.
Thank you. 7-11, please.
Authorize motor vehicle sales license transfer AAM Auto Sales to Weiss Leader All-American Commercial Center.
This resolution authorizes a motor vehicle sales license transfer and the name change only from All-American Mazda to Weissler All-American Commercial Center. 7-12, please.
Authorize motor vehicle sales license transfer AAM Auto Sales to Weiss Leader All-American Certified Used Vehicle Sales.
Councilman Albanese.
This resolution authorizes the motor vehicle sales, license transfer, and name change only from All-American Mazda to Weiss Leader All-American Certified Used Vehicle Sales.
Thank you. 7-13, please.
713A is an inspection fund release for W&F Developers, Inc. on Brick Boulevard in the amount of $250. B is an inspection fund release for the Ocean Heart Group on Route 88 in the amount of $452.70. C is an inspection fund release for Winding River Village Association in the amount of $685.37.
Thank you. 7-14.
14A is 100% DAV refund and cancel taxes for Block 1427, Lot 6, C4501, in the amount of $1,827.65. And 14B is to issue a duplicate tax sale certificate number 2020-0003.
Thank you. This ends the consent agenda. Can I get a motion in a second, please?
Motion.
Second.
Open to council for comments. Closed council. So, I'm going to step off script here. Before I open it to public, I want to make a couple comments. I want to take a few minutes to say a couple things. I want to remind everybody here, the people that aren't here, somebody's watching from home, we volunteer for this job. We were elected by brick people to represent brick people. We understand that going forward. This is not all we do up here. We do a lot. We serve on committees such as Business and Finance, Recreation, Land Use, Public Works, Public Safety, Ethics. We also are liaisons to several groups such as Architectural Review, Board of Education, BMAC, Housing, Chamber of Commerce, Fire Safety, Library, MUA, Planning Board, Sustainable Brick, TNR, Tourist Development, Parks, Veterans Administration, Veterans Advisory, and a host of others. We give up many nights, weekends. We volunteer for this. We give it up without hesitation. There's a great mix of people up here. It's a great team. None of us would rather be on any other team. This is a good group of people, good business ethics, they have good conscience. They literally take what they do seriously up here. And again, every other night during the week and on weekends, we try to treat everybody with the utmost respect. we would appreciate it in return. The mayor, Mrs. Bergen, and Mr. Starkey are our guests at these meetings, if you don't know that already. They're our guests. They don't have to be here. They're here because we ask them to come and to be able to answer your questions to their best of their ability. I also want to talk about the way the meetings have been handled in the past. I do meetings for a living, okay? These meetings have been contentious and unruly at best. And I know it's been a long night, but you're going to have to listen to me. Robert's Rules has been brought to our attention on a host of occasions. Our meetings are governed by Robert Rules, except as otherwise provided by the Administrative Code. The Administrative Code limits comments from members to 5 minutes. It is done to ensure that everybody gets their time to speak. That's why we're here. When the opportunity of a question arises, please ask your question so we can answer your question to the best of our ability. And we do have if we don't have the answer, we'll make every effort to get the answer for you. I'm not saying it's going to be the answer you want, but we're going to get you the answer you need. For public comments, that's your opportunity, and I mean this with all due respect, to ramble on about whatever you want, as long as it's not disrespectful to anyone up here on this dais, anybody in the audience, or our guests. Robert's Rules also talks about disruptive people in these meetings, whether at the podium, the audience, or even on the dais, because we're not going to allow it. First, you'll be asked to stop speaking. Simple. Then you're going to be asked to sit down. If you don't, we're going to consider this disruptive behavior. According to Robert's Rules, I will at that point ask the Sergeant of Arms, whoever that person may be, to get involved. And they're going to get involved however they see fit, so that we can continue the business at hand. We're here to conduct business. This isn't a game to us. We're here to do business. So, going forward, this is how it's going to be. You're going to have your 5-minute time limit. And we're going to strictly adhere to it. Okay? I'm going to repeat. We're going to strictly adhere to your 5 minutes. So everybody gets the opportunity to talk. When you hear the gong, if you will, your 5 minutes is up. So please wrap it up. If you don't wrap it up, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up. And if you continue, according to Robert's Rules, this is considered disruptive behavior. And so everybody understands, Robert's Rules is not a law. It's not binding, okay? It's a guide to help governing bodies such as this one run their meetings and to make decisions as a group. So that's my piece. Let's make sure, because again, the meetings have been not productive in my eyes. That's not how I like to handle my business. I do this for a living. I run meetings for a living. We're going to abide by these rules, and again, we're going to strictly adhere to the 5 minutes. So, with that being said, anybody from public? Yes, Ms. Cole.
Nan Call, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. And as you did, I'm going to take us some time to address what you just said. Robert's Rules it's printed in the E-Code. And the 5-minute rule was put in when the Republicans had complete control, and Ruth Ann Scatoro went over the entire code book and inserted the 5-minute rule. So we could ask the town clerk to get what it was before that change, which never had the consent of the people, and that's how changes should be made. Enough information isn't given on the consent agenda, and I have asked many, many times that in addition to block and lot, you put the name of the owner for each of those. In fact, even for the AAM, or your buy and brick program, who are the small businesses that are supposed to be getting a benefit from it? They're paying money to offset homeowners' taxes.
Thank you. Anybody else from public, please? Yes.
I have a question for the mayor. Are you going to be doing any more presentations on the budget this year, or like in future meetings, or do I do my question now?
Me, or you mean department heads?
You.
No, that's what I do the introduction, and then. Oh, yeah, there's a public hearing at the, I'm sorry, at the adoption, at the budget hearing. There's a budget hearing in the future, yes.
When is that? The 28th or something?
April 27th.
April
April 27th.
7th. Thanks.
Okay, so I have a question. Should I ask it now, or? Okay.
If you want.
I thought there was a future meeting, so I didn't bring
Yeah.
my backup documentation for my question, but it's easy for you to check. Trust me, my numbers are right.
Okay.
After last meeting's presentation by the chief with the police, which, you know, I always comment about because that's the biggest part of the budget, right? I looked at 2019, you know, for the 2020 budget, and then this year's presentation. So I skipped the year because I figured, well, pre-COVID and post-COVID would be a good comparison. If I understood you correctly, you said the police budget for salaries, which I'm assuming is salaries and overtime, is going up by $529,000.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Here's what I found when I compared the chief's presentation this year with 2 years ago. We went up by 13 people in the police department. Some of them were patrol officers, some of them were special officers, whatever. The numbers went up. When I compared the number of calls that they did last year compared to what they did 2 years ago in his presentation, it went down by 6,600. 6,600 is a lot of calls to go down, and I'm sure that's a good thing, right? So my question is, when the number of calls go up, we hired more people. When the number of calls go down, are we going to do the opposite? Are we going to not backfill people, or are we going to cut the overtime budget? I mean, I understand that in the presentation he said, like, last year was a bad year for overtime because we had the fire and some other things. Well, if it was a bad year, you did 6,600 calls less than you did 2 years ago, and you added 13 people. That part doesn't compute in my head.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know we added officers to help with the overtime, of course, because that's a big portion of the overtime. Besides the big fires and stuff like that, is there's something called minimum manpower. I mean, the chief. The better question for the chief, but something called minimum manpower.
I couldn't ask the chief because I didn't have the two to compare, and I needed time to do that.
Yeah,
So-
no, I got you. So, what happens with minimum manpower if they don't have enough people, officers on the street? They have to call somebody in. That person gets overtime for for not a regular shift because it's overtime for that officer, but they have to have a certain amount for minimum manpower.
Okay.
Yeah. So with more officers, that will help hopefully with overtime, unless there's a bunch of big fires, and then that throws the minimum manpower things out of whack. And now we're talking about big big events.
If you look at 6,600 calls, that's roughly like 20 calls less a day. So I'm figuring either you need less manpower or you need less overtime. One of the two.
Yeah, but it's
And
similar to
I'm
what we
hoping-
talked about earlier with, like, you can't predict it. So what's going to happen next year?
I know
could be
you
really
can't
bad.
predict it, but I'm looking at reality. And now, supposedly last year was a bad year because of the things he said, but in fact, we did 6,600 calls less. And I'm not complaining about that, believe me. All right, that's a good thing. But manpower-wise, that ought to play into the equation of where if we have more calls, we need more people, we need more overtime. You have less calls, you need less people, or you need less overtime. And just my overall comment on the budget, it's always the same. I'm not going to be happy with small increases. I'm going to be happy when we get a decrease because we are the highest tax state in the country. And this year, everybody's getting clobbered, so.
I'm about as you know, I'm about stabilization, keeping things nice and even. I don't like okay, we're gonna cut, but then we're gonna raise 11% next year. You know, that's not me. I'm conservative. I'm very, very conservative.
There's gotta be something in there. If you gotta raise it because it's bad, something's gotta happen when it's good. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's good, but yeah, gotcha.
66, I'm not talking about a couple of calls, I'm talking about 66.
I don't even know what a call is. I don't know if a call is somebody calling here, or a call is the police officer going out. That's like I said, that's
I
better
don't-
for the chief. I'm not sure if a call is like somebody calling 911. So we had less of that, but there could be more accidents.
I'm
or
not
something
sure
else.
either, but that's what was presented.
I don't know.
And my 5 minutes are up.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from public?
I just wanted to clarify for the record, the public hearing on the budget is April 26th.
Thank you.
See you then.
Closed public. Roll call.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Menachino.
Yes.
Thank you.
That brings us to our bill resolution, the computer bill resolution.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts the same. Computer bill resolution in the amount of $13,265,922.71.
Thank you. Can I get a motion in a second, please?
Motion.
Second.
Open to council.
Mm-hmm.
Closed council. Open to public for questions on the computer bill resolution. Seeing none, closed public. Roll call.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Menachino.
Yes.
Thank you.
This brings us to a manual bill resolution.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Manual bill resolution in the amount of $1,763,813.83.
Thank you. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion.
Second.
Open to council for comments. Closed council. Open to public for questions on the manual bill resolution only. Seeing none, closed public. Roll call.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
President Menachino.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to our public comments.
Please note that each person addressing the council during any section of the meeting during which public comment is permitted shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes pursuant to Brick Township Administrative Code, Section 2-33B.
Thank you. Mrs. Bergen.
No, thank you.
Oh, public, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Sorry. I'm ahead of myself. It's late. Anybody from public? Yes, Mr. Sluka. We got to get your steps in.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. I got to bring some things up because I don't really consider myself rambling on, but I will ramble on for a few minutes since I have 5 minutes to ramble. One, I want to apologize for getting your name wrong again.
It's all right. You can ramble.
Menachino.
You can ramble. Go ahead.
I cannot believe I did it again.
That's okay.
But it happens. Hopefully it won't happen again. The other thing is the Route 88 Wawa area that we keep being told you can't make a left on Wawa. There's no signs, there's no nothing, and people still do it in and out. I know it's like a county or a state or a federal road or something, but that doesn't mean we can't get a sign out there, you know, somehow. Put a sign out and embarrass them and say, look, you guys were so damn late, we did it for you. Maybe that'll get some action. The other thing is, sometimes people here do run over 5 minutes. I get so much out of those questions and comments. Yeah, sometimes we all ramble, but sometimes there's something important in there. We just can't cut it off at 5 minutes. You know, you got to use your discretion a little bit, okay?
So I'd like to think I'm discretion.
Yeah.
I use discretion. If somebody's passionate about something and they're putting their heart and soul into something, I don't have a problem with that. but every week we don't need history lessons,
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about anybody
I
specific.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so
but
again,
not all of us are only 45 years old. Some of us are 70 and 80 and 90. We got to make accommodations, please.
Thank you.
And, just that's my comment, because I could ramble.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to read my letter, even though I messed up your name. Dear Mayor Ducey, March 18, 2022, Council President Vincent Minachino, and all councilmen and councilwomen. The New Jersey Turnpike Authority Commissioners continue to cause illnesses and death to our Brick and Ocean County residents. There is a need for increased brush and a large, long wall in all the areas that are exposed to the toxins that are flowing off the Garden State Parkway. The toxins, the noise, and other airborne debris streaming off the Garden State Parkway are forced into the lungs of our seniors, children, mothers-to-be, and everyone else, every one of us, workers and residents alike. The area around Evergreen Woods Condo, Town Hall, Brick High School, Greenbrier, Lanes Mill School, Birchwood, and many other areas of the county are impacted by the poisons forced upon us by the savage actions of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority Commissioners. A wall, increased brush, and trees would stop the damage of the lungs of children that hit children and the adults in the area. In order to save the health and lives of our residents and workers, 14 to 20-foot walls are needed, along with replanting and replacement of trees, brush, and grass that once bordered that Garden State Parkway. All of us, workers and residents of Brick, continue to develop COPD. The children have asthma, pregnant moms have autistic children, and seniors succumb to heart and lung illnesses and premature deaths. But the New Jersey Turnpike Authority Commissioners will do nothing. They must be forced to see the evil of their ways, and somehow they've got to realize that, and they are giving all our residents these health issues. The raging vanity or verita of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority Commissioners curbed them from doing the right thing. Walls of 14 to 20 feet and vast high and thick replanting of brush and trees are needed on and near the Garden State Parkway. And once again, in areas of Evergreen Woods, Greenbrier, Primrose Garden, Sutton Village, Lanes Mill School, Town Hall, Brick High, and Birchwood Park, and other areas of Brick Township, as well as other places in Ocean County and Monmouth County as well. Legal action is needed to stop the suffering of our people. And with that knowledge, we need to act. Thank you for your time, and I yield back 50 seconds.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Yes, Ms. Cole.
Nan Carl, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. I've already mentioned about addresses. You are correct that the mayor is an invited guest, is a guest, not necessarily invited, although this particular meeting, he definitely would have been and should have been to give the budget presentation. He may request, if he has something that's important to share with the townspeople, that he attend the meeting. But Mr. Starkey is not. Mr. Starkey is the counsel with an E to the council with an I, and for the people. But he never does refer to anything as our previous counselor did. Generally she was asked, and she gave the law on it and referred to her laptop, her textbook of rules and orders. So I hope you're going to apply the same rules to the council members that you stated you're going to apply, and I will take it personally. I don't care whether you deny that. It's not my perception, is my reality. Therefore, I believe it was pointedly at me. There's nothing you can say to avoid that. You don't give enough information on this. There should at least be about 2 sentences for each one for a consent agenda. You don't follow asking, does anybody here, any attendee, there or here, want to have an item removed to get more information than you're supplying? Originally, the agendas were available to people on the Friday before. We had the ability to look at it, and the council. And the council should not be voting yea or nay on a consent agenda without having discussed in front of us what's on the agenda. And I can get you some videos that I recorded at home. Oh, and that brings up Comcast. You do have an item here about the wireless and the poles. Well, I suggest that Mr. Starkey, Mayor Ducey, look, and you yourself and every council member, at a blog that no charge to go on called Next Door Neighbor. Now, they do itemize the communities, but it doesn't matter when you say you want Greenbrier too, which, by the way, Mr. Sluka's words affect us too. And see how many people are complaining about Comcast. I found out because I had one set-top box and 3 what they call DTVs. The set-top box gave me trouble. You cannot get proper service from Comcast. You stay on the line. They refuse to put a real person on until they have judged that you've done everything they want about resetting the cable box and unplugging it. Well, after much ado, about 3 days out of my life, they said, "Oh, you have this set-top box for a long time, don't you? Seems like it's old. And we'll send a new one out to you, and you send back this one." Well, I'm going to go down to Xfinity or Comcast, which is the corporate name, tomorrow, hopefully, if I can get the strength to get down to Tom's River, since the one on Brick Boulevard is no longer open to the public. And see, because I know cabling. I've done a lot of things. I worked for Marbell. I tell people as a call girl in customer service first, then as quality assurer, and then finally in information technology for the last 15 years of my working life. I did cabling there. I even at strike duty pulled the big ones in the central office and soldered the new ones on. So I know cabling. And they sent me a new cable. Well, the new cable is much thicker. And I set up the set-top box as I've set up everything up in my home. Doesn't work at all. And I called them, and I did get somebody saying, "You've put in a different weight, it appears, on this cable, and it's not compatible because my wiring is underground, where all the water is, rotting cables out. I've had that issue with it, too, in the past. But in this case, the connection that goes into my house is the old skinny cable, coax cable, that is, that I believe is not compatible with the new set-top box and 5G.
Thank you. Anybody else from public? Yes, sir.
Ready to go home? What's your name again?
Mr. Sluka will be happy to tell you my name.
I can't trust him. I'll look bad, too. Okay, just comments on your comments. All right? First of all, don't judge us all by 1 or 2.
I'm not.
Okay?
And just so you know,
what-
I'll hold everybody to the same standard, like I
Right.
said in my brief.
These meetings are governed by 2 laws, the Open Public Meeting Act and the Sunshine Laws. And I carry them around, not to this meeting, but to the school board meeting. So, unfortunately, in there it says you can set the amount of time that people can spend up here. And it seems to be 5 minutes, which isn't a lot. The second thing it says in there is you don't have to answer a question if you don't want to. That's in the rules. 2 of those things are frustrating when a dialogue needs to be done. So all I'm asking is that don't just allow people to come up and make comments and then say thank you for your comments, and they're looking for some kind of dialogue, and we allowed you to say something. Well, did you hear us, or did you not hear us? So if a dialogue is required, have it. If you have to go over a couple extra minutes, that's okay. And I'll allow you to use your good judgment to do that, right? But what I don't want to see is your 5 minutes are up, take a powder.
That's
And
not the intent.
Okay.
I'm sure we're all aware of the intent. People that left the meeting abruptly before, we all know the intent, okay?
Okay.
It's not here to, it's not pointing at anybody. You want to have a dialogue, we can have a dialogue anytime you want, okay?
No, dialogue takes two.
I understand
That's
that,
not
yeah, I understand what a monologue is, I get it. So, it wasn't intended to hurt anybody's feelings or disrupt anybody, but in my comments, I did say, anybody disruptive, whether you're in the audience, at the podium, or on the dais. So I'm hoping that I can control the people up at the dais as long as you guys are on your best behavior. It's very simple. It's not easy with this, folks. They're a good team, but sometimes they're disruptive. So again, I had hoped, yeah, Paul's gone. So I just want to make sure we understand each other going forward.
It's all the attorney's fault, I
Yeah.
know that. Okay, and one last thing, this little baby right here. Thank you very much.
Thank
This is not a podium, this is a lectern. A podium is a raised platform.
I'll check with the
You're on the
attorney.
podium.
Yeah.
I've been trying for 10 years to get the school board to
Yeah.
call this a
I'm trying to
lectern.
help you out
And if
there.
you watch
Yeah,
the
yeah.
meetings, I don't have.
Thank you,
Anyway, we appreciate the time, we appreciate the effort.
thank you.
I'm wondering, at every meeting that I go to, Joanne has to close it up, so I think she just doesn't ever sleep. I mean, really.
Yeah. She's one of those people.
Huh?
She's one of those
One-
people.
one of those
She's-
4-hour
She's
people?
everywhere. Yes.
Did you have to close up last night? Okay, everybody can go home now, thank you.
Thank you. Sure. You can come to the podium. Sorry.
And now I'll read from Matthew chapter 3.
Yeah.
It has to do with Alyssa Cummins. Alyssa Cummins originally was an employee of Birdsall. And she was an employee. Birdsall was our engineering department. Birdsall was corrupt. And people got called out about it. But Alyssa was never wrong or did anything out of the way. She was never charged with anything. And Scott McFadden was the one took Alyssa's words and twisted them. But I want to clarify that Alyssa was an employee of Birdsall till the township brought it in-house and made Alyssa the proper engineering expert. And she does a marvelous job. She's super intelligent, and I wanted to make sure that was clarified. Never a tinge of corruption with her.
Thank you. We feel she's an asset also. Thank you. Anybody else from public? Seeing none, close public. Mrs. Bergen.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Nothing, thanks for the invitation.
Mr.
I'm gonna
Starkey.
keep it going, nothing from here.
Madam Clerk.
Nothing, thank you.
Madam Secretary.
Nothing.
Councilman Albanese.
Nothing.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
I'm going to break the streak. I just want to thank Alyssa, Chris, Tara,
Yeah.
and Dan for their budget presentations and sticking it out through the whole meeting. You guys are
Yeah.
a treasure and a pleasure to work with. Thank you.
Councilwoman DeYoung.
Ditto to what Councilwoman Zapsik said. Thank you.
Councilwoman Ponterera.
Exactly what Ms. Sapsik said, I would say right now. Thank you.
Councilman Halloran.
I will say their names because I want to say thank you to them. So, thank you, Alyssa, Tara, Chris, and Dan. We appreciate all the hard work you do, and we know that you do. I just want to congratulate Jim Sigurdsson and also Taya Patino for their wonderful work. Please keep it up. We appreciate it. I do have a little bit of a public announcement. Popcorn Park Animal Refuge and Zoo is raising money for the Associated Humane Societies Incorporated during their Animal Refuge Food Drive running through March 31st. Any contribution, whether it's $5, $2, $500, will be of help. The association, let me just get my I know, all this time, and I had to bring it back up. They are sanctuary for abused, neglected, and/or abandoned animals of all species and sizes, including wildlife, farm animals, and exotic animals. They also run 3 animal shelter facilities located in Newark, Tinton Falls, and Forked River, and they provide animal control services to more towns than any animal shelter in New Jersey. They pride themselves on high level of care, and that hundreds of animals that call their home at their facilities. They have an open, what they refer to as an open door policy, which means they will take any animal, whether it is sick or has emotional problems or whatever, they will take it. So please be aware of that, and if you are kind enough to support them, it certainly would be appreciated. That's all I have.
Thank you. Council Vice President
I
Crate.
think we have a swan there.
We do,
Have a
we do.
swan there?
Yes.
So for nothing, if nothing else, you can donate for our swan that was relocated there. Thank you guys for sticking it out tonight. We appreciate your presentations, and I have nothing else.
Thank you. I want to thank the Cub Scouts for leading us in the salute to the flag. And thanks for listening to my rambling for a few minutes. I appreciate it. And can I get a motion to end the meeting?
Motion.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.